from our studios here in the National Capital Region. Now, of course, we have a long list of stories to cover, some domestic stories, some political stories. Of course, it's counting for those 5 poll-bound states tomorrow. Meanwhile, we will also focus on what's happening in the Parliament vis-a-vis Moitra and the Parliamentary all-party meet that has commenced as well. The Prime Minister, he was in Dubai, attended the COP28, suggested that COP33 in 2028 should in fact be hosted by India. And the top developments coming out of COP. And that's not all. Climate change is something that we here at News 9 Live really touch, focus on a lot, and we'll bring you stories from there as well. But first and foremost, our top focus this news hour is going to be day 57 of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. It's the 57th day. There was a little bit of a truce for almost about a week, 7 days, but that has expired. And since then, well, the death toll again has been mounting. Let's get you the latest updates on your screens. Israel has been pounding Gaza since the resumption of fighting. This even as 184 Palestinians have been killed since the truce ended on Friday morning, according to the Gazan Health Ministry. Now, the United Nations RWA, it says no humanitarian aid was allowed into Gaza on Friday, another one of those prerequisites for the truce to hold. Now, the Rafah crossing is going to remain open on Saturday, according to the Gaza Ministry. Rafah crossing, a very crucial crossing point for aid to enter the Strip. Now, Gaza's quote-unquote most dangerous place in the world to be a child. This is a statement that has come across from the UNICEF. If you're a child, well, then Gaza is the most dangerous place. The United Nations, on the other hand, regrets resumption of hostilities and has called for the situation to be less catastrophic and calm down in the coming days. It is deeply distressing, is what United Kingdom's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said on the breakdown of the truce. Deeply distressing, even as you're looking at all these pictures on your screens of how the death toll is again mounting. There was a set of hostage releases that took place, but that has broken down. And since then, 184 Palestinians have been killed. Now, Israeli shelling in South Lebanon has also killed 3, according to the Lebanese media. And this even as we're picking up that Israel has launched air attacks near Damascus. Now, over the course of the next couple of minutes, we will also be talking to you about how the Israeli Defense Forces have incorporated next-gen artificial intelligence to bombard the Gaza Strip. It was 50 bombings a year, which has now gotten down to 200 bombings each day. Now, as the truce between Israel and Hamas, it came to an abrupt end. We could once again see flares falling over Gaza on Gaza's skyline. Well, whatever's left of that skyline. Take a look at that. Israel's warplanes have certainly returned to pound the Gaza Strip. And within a few hours of the truce expiring, Gazan officials reported that 184 Palestinians were killed since the truce ended on Friday morning, while dozens of others were wounded in the several airstrikes that ensued. Now, Israel and Hamas, they've both been accusing each other of not abiding by the negotiations. Meanwhile, the White House stated that Hamas had failed to produce a new list of hostages to release, preventing an extension of the truce. Israeli military reported that its ground, air, and naval forces had targeted over 200 terror targets in the enclave in the morning. Now, you just saw the flares, and take a look at this. Israeli army has released a video on Friday that says it is showing airstrikes on various Hamas targets in Gaza. Visuals of the 2nd of December. Now, Israeli army said it has struck 200 targets in the north and the south of Gaza, including ravaged bombardment across Khan Yunis and Rafah since the very morning. Eastern areas of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza came under intensive bombardment as well, as the deadline lapsed just shortly after dawn, with columns of smoke rising into the sky. These are infrared visuals that the IDF has consistently been putting out. Of course, it's important to know that the timing of these visuals cannot be corroborated. Now, in the north of the enclave, previously the main war zone, huge plumes of smoke could be seen rising above the ruins from across the fence in Israel. Now, News 9 has stationed its boots on the ground when it comes to the Israel-Hamas war. And the war in Gaza, it has recommenced as Israel's defense forces bombarded the strip with their airstrikes and their artillery. Our reporter on the ground, Vipin Chaube, will take you through the situation in Palestine at the present moment. Take a look.
हम इस वक्त तेल अवीव से गाजा बॉर्डर के रास्ते में हैं और आप एक बार फिर से देखिए इस तरह की गाड़ियां, बख्तरबंद गाड़ियां, आर्मी के टैंक्स, इसके अलावा जो मिसाइल कैरियर्स है वो सब आपको नजर नहीं आती थी बीच में, लेकिन अब स्टॉप फॉर 1 मिनट, लेकिन अब वो आपको यहां पर नजर आ रही है। ये तमाम तैयारियां की जा रही हैं सीजफायर टूटने के बाद और इन गाड़ियों को बिल्कुल तैयार रहने के लिए कहा गया है। फिलहाल आप इन गाड़ियों की तैनाती को देख सकते हैं और इसके जरिए आप ये समझने की कोशिश करिए कि वॉर कैसे बढ़ रहा है। माना यह जा रहा है कि अब तक जो वॉर हुआ है उससे विभत्स ये वॉर होगा और उसकी तस्दीक करती हुई ये तस्वीर आपको नजर आ रही है। अब देखिए बिल्कुल करीब से उन टैंक्स की तस्वीरें, उन तोपों की तस्वीरें जो बॉर्डर पर इस युद्ध को लड़ेंगी। फिलहाल यहां हमें रुकने की इजाजत नहीं है, इसलिए चलती गाड़ी से इन तस्वीरों को दिखाने का मकसद यही था कि आप ये समझिए कैसे इस युद्ध को आप दूसरे तरीके से लड़ने जा रहा है और ये पार्ट 2 कहा जा रहा है। सीजफायर के बाद पहली बार इस युद्ध को अब दोबारा से शुरू किया जा रहा है और माना यह जा रहा है कि पहले से भी ज्यादा विध्वंसक ये युद्ध होगा। कैमरा पर्सन गंगा के साथ विपिन चौबे, टीवी 9 भारतवर्ष, स्टे रोड, गाजा स्ट्रिप। इस वक्त हम गाजा के रास्ते में हैं और अभी देखिए जैसे ही रास्ते में जा रहे हैं इस तरीके से हमले किए जा रहे हैं और ये वो रॉकेट्स आ रहे हैं गाजा पट्टी के इलाके से जिनको आयरन डोम निष्क्रिय कर रहा है। ये देखिए कैसे कैसे ये आया है और इसको हवा में कैसे निष्क्रिय किया गया है। सामने की तरफ दिखाइए गंगा, वहां पर काला उठता हुआ धुआं उस ट्रांसफार्मर के बगल से, मतलब युद्ध विध्वंसक हो रहा है और उसके प्रमाण, उसकी तस्दीक करती हुई ये तस्वीरें देखिए। आयरन डोम बॉर्डर के इलाके में बहुत ज्यादा सक्रिय है। आज सुबह 7 बजे से जो सीज फायर की बुनियाद है वो टूट चुकी है और उसके बाद से लगातार दोनों तरफ से हमले किए जा रहे हैं और हमलों के बाद देखिए कैसे चेक पोस्ट पर तैनाती को बढ़ा दिया गया। ये बंकर है जहां पर जैसे ही ये हमला हुआ है लोग इस बंकर में आकर छिप गए हैं। देखिए इस बंकर को हम आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं। इसी तरह के बंकर्स जगह जगह पर बनाए गए हैं और आयरन डोम इस तरह के हमले को फिलहाल निष्क्रिय कर रहा है और रास्तों में भी लोग डरे सहमे नजर आ रहे हैं। बॉर्डर की तरफ ले चलेंगे आपको, वहां क्या कुछ है वो भी आपको दिखाएंगे, लेकिन फिलहाल ये समझते चलिए कि स्थिति और भी विध्वंसक होने जा रही है। कैमरा पर्सन गंगा के साथ विपिन चौबे, टीवी 9 भारतवर्ष, गाजा बॉर्डर।
Well, it's about to be 60 days, and the ripple effect of this conflict can be felt in far-flung places. Take a look at this. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, he met with relatives of 3 individuals seized by Hamas in Israel, showing support for those still missing after the October 7th attack. Now, Schwarzenegger, declaring himself a friend of the Jewish people and Israel, presented bronze eagle sculptures to the visitors at a video production company in Santa Monica. The visitors, in turn, gave Schwarzenegger a quote-unquote bring them home dog tags as they seek to raise awareness and support for the release of their loved ones. Israel claims that Hamas took 240 plus hostages in the October 7th attack, resulting in 1,200 deaths and sparking a conflict inside the West Asian region. A 7-day pause in fighting led to the release of 110 hostages, including 86 Israelis and 24 foreigners, in exchange for Palestinian detainees. Additionally, the bodies of 2 hostages were recovered by Israeli troops. Now, Schwarzenegger, leveraging his celebrity status, expressed his commitment to using his influence to draw attention to the situation and urged not abandoning those still being held captive by Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
And I always want to be there for the Jewish people and for Israel. I am a big friend of the Jewish people and Israel. The most common thing that I heard was, that you want to get the message out. You want to share the message. And I think this is where I come in. Because when you're a celebrity, then you have a certain kind of a power to communicate to the mass, because you have a lot of cameras show up. And without really the media, you cannot really communicate to the mass. And I think this is a story that everyone in the world needs to hear. And not just once, but as many times as possible. Because it shows once again what hate can do.
And well, people are taking some extreme steps at this front as well. A protester with the Palestinian flag self-immolated on Friday outside the Israeli consulate in Atlanta. The person, whom officials did not identify, is currently in critical condition, according to Police Chief Darren Shearbaum, who said the same at a news conference. Now, a security guard who attempted to intervene, actually was successful in the particular intervention, also sustained major burn injuries. Now, according to the chief, he says, and on record, he says, we believe that it was an act of extreme political protest. Now, the protester arrived around 12:17 p.m. at the office building, which houses the consulate, as well as several businesses, and used gasoline in this particular self-immolation bid. And from Atlanta, shifting our focus to D.C., where protesters wearing keffiyeh, the traditional black and white checkered scarf worn in West Asia, and waving Palestinian flags, demanded the quote-unquote end of the siege on Gaza.
From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free!
The demonstrators on Friday held a rally and prayer vigil outside the embassy of Israel in Washington. There was a proper prayer that was held.
Occupation no more! Occupation no more! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
End the siege on Gaza now!
End the siege on Gaza now!
End the siege on Gaza now!
Let Gaza live! Let Gaza live! Let Gaza live! Allahu liman hamida. Allahu.
Well, you can vouch on News 9 Live to bring you all the latest developments that are coming out of war-torn Israel and Gaza. Meanwhile, shifting our focus to some top international stories as well. The European Union's drug watchdog, it has requested more data from these drug makers, particularly of a class of diabetes and weight loss drugs, including Novo Nordisk's popular therapies. And why? Well, to further investigate suicidal thoughts in some patients taking them. Here's a report. Take a look.
The EU's drug watchdog will seek more data from certain makers of diabetes and weight loss drugs to further investigate suicidal thoughts in some patients taking them. This includes Novo Nordisk's popular medicines Ozempic and Wegovy. On Friday, the European Medicines Agency said in a statement that while at this point no conclusion can be drawn on a causal association, there are several issues that still need to be clarified. The move followed a review that started in July and covered a range of drugs known as GLP-1 receptor agonists. This type of drug triggers a feeling of fullness after eating and slow gastric emptying, and includes Eli Lilly's Trulicity, Sanofi's Suliqua, and Novo's Saxenda. The EMA had initially received reports from the Icelandic Medicines Agency based on 2 cases involving an active ingredient in Saxenda and 1 case involving an active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. The review was also based on at least 170 case reports from Vigilance, a system to register suspected adverse reactions to medicines. Separately, Reuters reported in September that the US Food and Drug Administration had received 265 reports of suicidal thoughts or behaviour in patients taking GLP-1 medication between 2010 and June 2023. The FDA said at the time it was reviewing such reports to decide on what action, if any, to take. Issues of suicidal thoughts have hobbled previous attempts by the drug industry to develop lucrative weight loss drugs. But obesity experts have said that reduced calorie intake as a result of strict dieting or gastric surgery can also lead to depression in rare cases. The EMA's move marked the first major global regulator to provide an update on such reviews of these drugs. The Watchdog's Risk Assessment Committee, which monitors drugs' side effects, will return to the topic in April 2024.
And whilst we're talking about drug makers, medication and treatment, take a look at this next one. The fight against malaria faces a significant threat. Well, why? Due to the climate crisis. Because mosquitoes, the disease carriers, are thriving in the warming and the humid conditions. Now, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom, he stated that urgent, sustainable responses are crucial at the moment. The latest World Malaria Report reveals a worrying five-fold increase in cases in Pakistan after severe flooding, providing a breeding ground for mosquitoes. The number of global malaria cases in 2022 is considerably higher than the pre-COVID levels, with a rise in deaths to 6.08 lakhs just last year. Pregnant women and children under 5 are the most vulnerable, according to the report. And it also emphasizes other threats, including insecticide and invasive mosquito species resistance. Now take a look at this. WHO highlights the climate crisis as a major threat to the battle against malaria. The evidence indicates that extreme weather and rising temperatures have caused a surge in the cases. Mosquitoes thriving in warm and humid conditions found ideal breeding grounds in stranded water, contributing to a five-fold increase in cases in the flood-affected Pakistan, for example. Now, previously, malaria-free African highland areas are now considerably the most susceptible and vulnerable. And global malaria cases in 2022, they remain significantly higher than the pre-pandemic levels, with deaths rising from 5.76 lakh in 2019 to 6.08 lakhs from malaria just last year. This is equivalent to nearly 12,000 lives that have been lost weekly. And the World Health Organization has emphasized for an urgent need for sustainable and resilient malaria responses.
The World Malaria Report shows that progress towards key global targets for reducing malaria case, incidence, and death rates is off track by a wide margin. Given current trends, continuing with the status quo will only lead us further off track. We highlight a number of key actions in the report that are needed to get back on track. First, we need to step up financing. In 2022 alone, there was a global malaria funding gap of $3.7 billion. Second, we need robust political will. Countries must translate their political commitment to universal health coverage into tangible actions and resources that will save lives.
And moving on, retired Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman on the US Supreme Court, whose centrist views and shrewd negotiating skills allowed her to steer the nation's law for much of her quarter-century tenure, died on Friday at the age of 93. Here's a report. Take a look.
And today, I rise, along with my colleagues representing all of Arizona, Republicans and Democrats alike, to honor the life and legacy of the most influential Arizonan in history, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor.
Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, died on Friday at the age of 93. The court said in a statement that O'Connor died in Phoenix of complications related to dementia and a respiratory illness. She grew up in Arizona and lived there most of her life. O'Connor was sworn in as the first female Supreme Court justice in 1981. an appointee of then Republican President Ronald Reagan. She was conservative by nature, having grown up in an Arizona ranch family. But her pragmatism and knack for consensus building put her at the court's ideological center. As a former Republican state senator and later Arizona's Senate Majority Leader, another first-in-the-nation achievement, OConnor understood how to strategize with colleagues to get a majority decision. Over her quarter-century tenure, OConnor avoided sweeping pronouncements and voted for incremental change. And over time, her views became more liberal. She was a pivotal vote on some of the most contentious issues of her era, including preserving a woman's right to abortion and upholding affirmative action on college campuses. OConnor once compared her tenure to walking on wet cement, saying, "Every opinion you offer, you've left a footprint." She retired from the court in 2006, replaced by the more ideologically rigid conservative Justice Samuel Alito. After retirement, she dedicated herself to improving civics education. In 2009, former Democratic President Barack Obama presented OConnor with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor a president can give.
And another story from United States politics. The U.S. House of Representatives voted 311 to 114 to expel Republican George Santos, ending his brief career due to criminal corruption charges and campaign fund misuse. Now Santos, facing revelations of lies about his past and a federal indictment, became the sixth member expelled from the House and the first without fighting for the Confederacy or being convicted of a crime. Following the vote, Santos expressed defiance, stating he no longer had to answer questions and expressing discontent with the institution. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has 10 days to call a special election for Santos's seat, expected to take place 70 to 80 days from the proclamation. Now Santos has admitted to fabricating parts of his biography and faced federal charges of laundering campaign funds and defrauding donors, to which he pleaded not guilty. The expulsion followed a scathing House Ethics Committee report revealing campaign money spent on spa treatments, luxury retail, and an explicit online platform.
Clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 878. Resolution providing for the expulsion of Representative George Santos from the United States House of Representatives.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 311, the nays are 114, with 2 recorded as present. 2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The clerk will notify the governor of the state of New York of the action of the House. Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the chair announces to the House that in light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
I had no skin in the game.
Did you know this is how it was gonna go? Did you know this is how it was gonna go?
You know what? As unofficially already no longer a member of Congress, I no longer have to answer some single questions to you guys. That is the one thing that I've been saying forever. Don't let the door hit you.
Well, now delving a little bit away from American politics, but albeit in the United States as well, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, it released a statement on Friday that it is opening an investigation into the 73,000 Chevrolet Volt plug-in hybrid cars. Well, this over reports of abrupt loss of power, failures to restart, and several other issues.
Chevrolet's plug-in hybrid Volt,
a favorite among consumers after it debuted back in 2010, is now under investigation by U.S. auto regulators for alleged incidents involving loss of power, failures to restart, and other issues. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said it was looking into 73,000 Volts, model years 2016 through 2019, after 61 complaints tied to the Battery Energy Control Module, or BECM, which manages the charging and use of the hybrid battery. Some said there was little to no warning before the loss of operating power or reduced power mode occurred. Parent company General Motors previously issued a technical service bulletin saying if vehicles fail to restart, the BECM may need to be replaced and reprogrammed. That's according to NHTSA, which added that GM has not issued any recalls. Some owners have told NHTSA they have waited months or been unable to get replacement battery modules after experiencing the issue. An owner in Los Angeles said the Volt, quote, suddenly and unexpectedly lost propulsion while driving, adding that the vehicle is no longer able to turn on or drive. Another said the Volt would not drive more than 35 miles per hour on the highway and that it randomly stopped driving when in electric mode. The automaker did not immediately comment on the investigation. The Volt topped Consumer Reports' annual owner satisfaction survey in both 2011 and 2012. GM ended production of the car in 2019.
And next up, news coming in from the world of global sports, where Logan Sergeant, who completed the 2024 Formula One starting grid on Friday with the 22-year-old U.S. driver now securing a second season alongside Alex Albon in an unchanged lineup at not just the Williams but the entire grid. Now the American, who scored just the 1 point in his rookie season this year, had been only remaining uncertainty with all other drivers now confirmed. The decision to retain Logan Sergeant also meant there will be no driver change on the grid from the end of one season to the start of the next season, which essentially is a rarity in the history of Grand Prix racing. Now, former champions Williams finished the season 7th overall this year, moving up from 10th and last in the previous campaign. Now, Logan Sergeant, despite being outqualified 22 times by the experienced Thai Alex Albon, achieved several milestones, including being the first US driver in 30 years to score a point and first since 1987 to start a home Grand Prix in the top 10. And like we promised, next up, our segment on climate change. First up to the national capital, Delhi, where the Central Pollution Control Board reported that several areas in the national capital recorded very poor air quality yet again. According to official data, Anand Vihar and Ashok Vihar exhibited very poor air quality, although there is slight improvement from the previous day when both areas were categorized as severe. So from severe, we're heading towards the very poor category. Still a problem. Residents expressed concerns about health issues related to pollution, with one individual mentioning breathing problems and others noting high pollution levels affecting children as well. Due to bad weather and the low visibility in the national capital, 18 flights were diverted to Jaipur, Lucknow, Ahmedabad and Amritsar in a 3-hour period just this morning. Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai mentioned that GRAP 3, which is the Graded Response Action Plan and the third stage of it, has been lifted in the national capital, but efforts are underway to ensure strict implementation of GRAP 1 and GRAP 2. And moving from India to the neighboring Pakistan, the air quality, well, it remains pretty much the same. Residents and medical professionals in Karachi are expressing heightened health concerns due to severe air pollution as the city grapples with toxic smog. As of Friday, which is the 1st of December, Karachi held the 4th position on a real-time list of world's most polluted cities. The air quality has been categorized as unhealthy according to the AQI scale, which designates values between 100 and 200 as such for particularly sensitive groups. Now, this alarming situation highlights the recurring issue of smog in Pakistani cities like Karachi and Lahore, especially preceding winter, when cold air traps pollutants from various sources, including vehicles, industries, construction dust, and the burning of agricultural waste. That's not to be missed. Meanwhile, the COP28 that still is underway. World leaders at the COP28 Climate Summit convened to address the escalating threat of climate change, emphasizing the critical need for swift and decisive action. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres set the tone by calling for the outright phase out of oil and gas, aligning with the Paris Agreement's goals. Here, ladies and gentlemen, are the big takeaways from the COP28 summit. Now, the world leaders emphasized the urgent and significant threat of climate change, highlighting the need for immediate and drastic action to combat global warming. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva committed to stopping deforestation in his country by the year 2030. And that's not all. The Israel-Hamas war, it has cast a shadow over the conference as a week-long ceasefire ended, with leaders expressing sympathy for Palestinians and connecting their suffering to the broader climate change crisis. Now, COP28, it saw the announcement of significant financial commitments and ambitious plans as well. The formation of the Climate Club by 36 countries aimed at tackling industrial emissions was a notable initiative. Vietnam, on the other hand, presented its plan under the Just Energy Transition Partnership, outlining how it will spend $15.5 billion pledged by the rich nations to it. The plan aims to accelerate Vietnam's shift away from fossil fuels, boosting its reliance on renewable sources to meet daily energy needs. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida signaled a clearer determination to address climate change by pledging to halt new construction of unabated coal-fired power plants domestically. India has typically emphasized its commitment to sustainable development. The Prime Minister was there, of course, urging people to let COP33 in 2028 to be hosted by India. Now, India, it emphasized its commitment to sustainable development while addressing climate change. It often advocates for differentiated responsibilities, acknowledging historical contributions of developed countries to carbon emissions. Now, leaders also acknowledge the severe consequences of climate change and the need for collective action. United Nations Secretary General Guterres also highlighted that while the world is far from the Paris Agreement goals, preventing a planetary crash and burn is still achievable with immediate and concerted efforts only. Meanwhile, a record-breaking drought has snapped the Amazon River and its 4 biggest tributaries to their lowest levels in at least half a century, as scientists anticipate the next year could bring an even more intense drought.
From killing hundreds of endangered river dolphins to threatening the livelihoods of millions of people, this is the impact of the Amazon rainforest's historic drought. It sapped the Amazon River and 4 of its biggest tributaries to their lowest level in at least half a century, and the worst may be yet to come. Experts are predicting an even more intense drought next year due to extreme ocean temperatures worsened by global warming.
What is expected is that next year there will still be a drought due to this year's low water levels. And that happens because the water reserve will be compromised and also because of this year's drought.
Amazonas, which has been hit hardest by the drought, declared a public emergency in September. The state has delivered drinking water and food staples via aircraft and smaller boats. Helicopters are working overtime to airlift the sick. Meanwhile, thousands of students are enrolled in online classes because they can no longer get to school. The federal government has pledged millions of dollars towards relief efforts.
The human side is the one that suffers these consequences the most.
9 scientists interviewed by Reuters said the effects of the drought will only begin to recede with the onset of the rainy season in late 2024. 5 of those scientists didn't expect the Amazon to recover before 2026. They expect it will take 2 healthy rainy seasons to restore normal soil moisture in the rainforest. But even that could change based on El Niño. The naturally occurring phenomenon roils global weather every 2 to 7 years. As it warms waters off the Pacific coast of South America, it pulls rains in that direction, depressing precipitation in the Amazon. The current El Niño is estimated to last until mid-2024.
Meanwhile, in the small village of Surd, which has supplied most of Hungary with Christmas trees for years and decades on end, villagers over there worry for their livelihood as it could be in danger as the pine forests are shrinking due to climate change. Here's a full-blown report. Take a look.
The small village of Surd has supplied Hungary with Christmas trees for decades. But the pine forests there are shrinking due to climate change, threatening the livelihoods of local villagers.
If this continues and we do not change the climate, then we will have big problems.
In 2022, Hungary's pine forests covered more than 430,000 acres of land. That's down from over 450,000 acres in 2019, according to National Land Centre data. Some of these trees are not indigenous to Hungary, but were planted in the early 20th century. Pines have been adversely impacted by global warming, not just because of more frequent droughts. They're also being destroyed by wood-boring insects, which tend to proliferate in warmer weather. In the hills of Surd, Hungarians grow up to 2 million pine trees near the Croatian border. Growers say they now have to spray their plantations 3 times a year with insecticides to fend off the bugs. János Kanaz is the mayor of Surd and a pine tree grower.
Unfortunately, things are going a bad way, in the sense that the spruce trees have been hit by the infestation. And other types of pine trees must also be sprayed 3 times now. The spruce trees are the worst affected. It is in vain to spray them. The wood-boring insects go in deeply, and we cannot halt the disease. We now have to spray from early on, when the trees are small. Since I started more than 10 years ago, there have been more and more diseases affecting the pine trees. And it is costing us more and more, because we have to spray the pine trees to save them.
Kanaz says villagers ought to raise prices by about 20% this year due to the cost of insecticide. But this is not possible, as Hungarians have been hit by double-digit inflation and will not be able to afford to pay more for their Christmas trees.
Everyone would like to sell their pine trees, as that is their living. They have to put a lot of work into it, and they rather sell at last year's prices than not being able to sell. We are all seeing that people have run out of their money.
While pine trees are unlikely to disappear in Hungary, the share of pine forests will inevitably decrease further. That's according to Laszlo Galidi, a forest program officer at the World Wildlife Fund Hungary.
Hungary's continental climate is not really favorable for pine trees, and this has been coupled with the strengthening impacts from climate change, with long droughts and warmer summers. This has resulted in various insects being able to attack these trees more easily and more severely.
And even as COP28 is underway in Dubai, campaigners are warning we could face a global food production crisis if the planet's soil is not protected for the future generations.
Nearly a third of the Earth's soil is degraded, and an area the size of a soccer field is eroded every 5 seconds, according to UN figures from 2020. Those close to the issue say the planet is in a crisis.
We're quite literally losing soil and therefore the ability to produce food. So we need to change something. We know that soil is the future, and by helping soil do its job better, we're hopefully going to produce food in a more environmentally friendly way.
That's Danielle Semple from Farm Ed in the UK. She's at their demonstration farm that has increased the amount of organic matter in the soil through sustainable techniques. Farm Ed grows fruit, vegetables, and wheat using an 8-year crop rotation system that does not need fertilizer or pesticides, which are both made from oil and gas.
We know farming and food production is not sustainable anymore. What we're trying to do here is demonstrate all of the different practices that farmers, growers, policymakers, advisors, agronomists could implement on the land. We're not saying what we're doing is the be-all and end-all. We're just saying that these things are possibilities within a regenerative and sustainable farming and food production.
Henry Asplin is with Save Soil, a global campaign to raise awareness about soil health.
Save Soil says raising organic matter in soil to a minimum of 3 to 6% based on regional conditions is key to making sure it remains healthy.
There isn't one necessarily way of bringing organic matter back into soil, and as a movement we aren't trying to tell farmers how they need to manage their soil. It's just imperative that farmers are supported to make sure there is a minimum level of organic matter or life in their soil. And this can be done through policy change and incentivizing.
He says a failure to implement sustainable policies could have a serious impact on future generations.
There are various predictions, various different estimates, but we may reach a point where we aren't able to grow food anymore, that there's no life in our soil. And actually, organic matter depleting isn't just relevant for food. This soil dying will release carbon back into the atmosphere, have a huge biodiversity collapse if this happens.
And while shifting our focus again, Buckingham Palace is reportedly considering legal action over the naming of two royals in a resurfaced racism row within the royal family. The issue gained traction after King Charles and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were reportedly identified in the Dutch version of Ahmed Scobie's book Endgame as the individuals discussing Prince Archie's skin color. The palace is said to be exploring all options in response to these developments. When questioned by the BBC regarding reports of potential legal proceedings, a palace spokesperson stated, "We're exploring all options." And during his talk TV show on Wednesday, journalist Piers Morgan also revealed the names of the royals mentioned in the now pulled and pulp translated version of Scobie's book. Now, Scobie, on the other hand, claimed that he did not know how the Dutch translation of the book included the names. He swore, quote unquote, "on my life," that the naming was not a stunt. He asserted that a full investigation was underway to determine how the names were included, adding that the English version that he wrote, the book that he edited, did not have names in it. Five states went to polls very recently. You have Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Mizoram, and Telangana. The results are going to come out tomorrow. Next up, stories from these states in our mandate segment. First up, shifting our focus to the state of Mizoram, where the Election Commission has deferred the counting of votes for the Mizoram Assembly polls by 1 day from December 3rd to the 4th of December. Now, this decision followed pressure from political parties, the church and the civil societies, urging the Election Commission not to conduct a counting on Sunday, a day of veneration for Christians in Mizoram. The Commission received several representations requesting a change in the counting date due to its special significance for the people of Mizoram. Now, Mizoram NGO Coordination Committee organized a public gathering condemning the Sunday counting and urging the Election Commission to reschedule it to a weekday. Civil societies described the decision as a divine intervention, expressing happiness and attributing it to sincerest of the prayers. The counting will now take place on the 4th of December instead of the 3rd, beginning at 8 a.m. at all the 13 counting centers and 40 counting halls across Mizoram, involving over 4,000 counting personnel and 399 EVM tables, along with 56 postal ballot tables. Now, in the Mizoram polls, there was disagreement among the various agencies regarding the leading party between the Mizo National Front, which is the MNF, and the Zoram People's Movement, the ZPM. But unanimous consensus existed that the Congress party secured the third position in the race for forming the government. Notably, the India Today My Axis India poll stood out by providing a decisive mandate, favoring the Zora People's Movement in the 40-member House. The prospect of a hung house looms large should the election's result fail to produce a clear majority. Such an outcome would mark a significant turning point in the state's political history, introducing a new and challenging dynamic for the formation of the government.
Is also happy with this because, as we all know, Mizoram is a Christian state in which, on Sunday it's a church day for all of us. Counting votes on Sunday will be a big problem for many of the churchgoers and even the ones who are not going to the church, because 90% of the activities stop on Sunday. So it is a very welcome decision from the ECI. And this is not unprecedented, because 2013, if you look back 10 years ago, the ECI, they have already, issued the polling day as well as the counting day, which after the request from the political parties and all the NGOs and the churches, they had already shifted the dates. That was 10 years back. They are doing it again. So I'm very happy, because anyway, the vote will never change, It's only the day.
And well, from Mizoram to Telangana, where exit polls have given the Congress a lead in the Telangana Assembly elections, the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti seems to be losing ground, while the third player, the BJP, has been predicted to be limited to just 5 to 7 seats. Listen to T. Raja Singh of the Bharatiya Janata Party on what he thinks of the exit polls.
और एग्जिट पोल में कांग्रेस की बढ़त बता रहा है और टीआरएस की थोड़ी सीटें कम हो रही है, ऐसा बता रहा है, थोड़ी की अच्छी सीट कम हो रही है, और बीजेपी को बढ़त बता रहा है। हमने इससे पहले भी कहा था कुछ चैनलों में कि किसी को अच्छी सी मेजोरिटी नहीं आएगी, हंग होगा असेंबली इस बार। तो मैं समझता हूं कांग्रेस और बीआरएस जो चुनाव मिलकर लड़ी है, जहां जहां डम्मी डालना है डम्मी डाला है लोगों ने मिलजुल कर, तो कांग्रेस और बीआरएस मिलकर सरकार बनाएगी तेलंगाना में। ऐसा मुख्यमंत्री जी शायद अभी भी नींद में हैं, वो अभी भी सोच रहे कि सरकार मेरी ही बन रही है और मैं 4 तारीख के दिन कैबिनेट मीटिंग लगाऊंगा, फिर उसमें मुख्यमंत्री, डिप्टी मुख्यमंत्री, होम मिनिस्टर, अभी भी वो सपना देख रहे हैं। लेकिन मुख्यमंत्री जी, आप सपने से बाहर निकलिए, आपका काम तमाम हो चुका है, आपकी सरकार नहीं बन रही है।
Chhattisgarh, that's coming up next, because in Chhattisgarh the exit polls have shown the Congress to be securing another term in government with a handsome majority. BJP MP Prahlad Joshi has, however, said that there is a close fight in the state, but the Bharatiya Janata Party was going to form the government. He also enthused confidence of securing a grand victory in Rajasthan as well. Listen in.
मैं तो पहले राजस्थान के बारे में अगर बताऊं तो राजस्थान को मैं पहले ही बताया था। आपका भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, एएनआई का जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, उधर भी मेरे मुलाकात बहुत बार हुआ था। एएनआई को भी मैंने बताया था, बाकी सब लोगों को भी बताया था, राजस्थान में हम शानदार जीत हासिल कर रहे हैं। तो अभी तो आपका एग्जिट पोल भी वही दिखा रहे हैं, और मुझे पहले से भी मेरा विश्वास था, आज भी विश्वास है, राजस्थान में हम बहुत बड़ी मार्जिन से जीत रहे हैं। और बाकी मध्य प्रदेश, छत्तीसगढ़ में भी हमारा परफॉर्म, मध्य प्रदेश में तो उधर भी अच्छा बहुत बढ़िया जीत होगा। छत्तीसगढ़ में ऑफ कोर्स टाइट फाइट है, लेकिन विल फॉर्म द गवर्नमेंट इन छत्तीसगढ़। इससे कोई इशू ही नहीं है जी, ये तो अननेसेसरली वो तो उन लोगों का प्रॉब्लम है। वो तो जब वो हारने की स्थिति में पहुंच जाते हैं, वो तो ईवीएम को और चुनाव आयोग को ऐसे उनके ऊपर इल्जाम लगाने का उनका एक, और बीजेपी को, रिसोर्ट पॉलिटिक्स को, जब अपने घर आप ठीक नहीं रखते हो तो बाद में बाकी, क्योंकि अपने आप का जो वीकनेस है वो स्वीकारते नहीं है, वो करेक्टिव मेजर्स नहीं करते हैं, बाद में अपने ऊपर, बीजेपी के ऊपर आरोप करते हैं।
However, when we're again looking at Telangana politics, some interesting developments have taken shape. Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister DK Shivakumar, he is set to arrive in Hyderabad today, following optimistic exit poll projections for the Congress party in Telangana, just like we mentioned and showed you just a while back. Now, while some polls suggest a Congress advantage, a few hint at a potential hung assembly as well, prompting concerns about MLA poaching. Now, in response, Shivakumar has asserted that in an interview that nobody can poach the Congress MLAs. He, in fact, is the Congress's troubleshooter when it comes to situations like this, and he is going to be in Hyderabad today. Let's listen in to what DK Shivakumar had to say.
Moment at this point of time, how you are handling, sir? There is a sources saying that you have booked resort and you are going to bring the MLAs here to safeguard them.
No. I think there is no problem, no threat, anything. We have confidence. Our party will win comfortably. All legislators will be loyal. We know that they are trying to trap. We don't know all information. Our candidates themselves have informed them that they have been approached by the CM directly himself. Huh? So we have got information.
Well, when it comes to resort politics and troubleshooting something like that, who better than DK Shivkumar? And is it going to be a problem for K. Chandrasekhar Rao? Is he actually in touch with the Congress legislators? Now, Telangana, which voted on the 30th of November, recorded a 71.34% voter turnout. And the exit polls indicate a tough fight between the ruling BRS and the Congress party. What's going to happen? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. Meanwhile, with tensions flaring up at the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam located at the border between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the central government has stepped in and called upon the Central Reserve Police Force to take over the security at the dam. Now, the centre has also urged both the states to revert to the release of Nagarjuna Dam waters as of November 28th. Tensions flared up just hours before Telangana went to polls on November 30th. Authorities in Andhra Pradesh took charge of the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam and began releasing water into the state. Nearly 700 officers from the Andhra Pradesh police stormed into the dam premises and opened the right canal to release 500 cusecs of Krishna River water per hour. Telangana Chief Secretary A. Santhi Kumari said that by forcibly taking over the dam and its operations, Andhra Pradesh has created a law and order problem, especially at a time when the entire state administration was busy conducting the assembly elections. Andhra Pradesh Irrigation Minister Ambati Rambabu has, however, said that the state only took the water that belongs to the state as per the treaty between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Moving on, shifting our focus to Manipur, where a robbery of rupees 18 crores has been reported at a public sector unit bank in the northeastern state. As per reports, armed dacoits with face covered by masks looted rupees 18.80 crore in cash from a branch of a public sector bank in Manipur's Ukhrul district. The robbers were carrying sophisticated weapons and reached the bank in Ukhrul town, which is located around about 80 kilometers from the state capital, Imphal. With the help of weapons, the thieves were able to overpower the security personnel and looted the amount from the vault after threatening the staff. As per the police, the miscreants, some of whom were in camouflage uniform, locked up the employees and the security personnel inside the washroom of the bank, and one of the senior staff was made to open the vault at gunpoint, following which the robbers looted the money, 18.80 crore in totality. A complaint has been lodged at Ukhrul police station. The police started examining CCTV footage. Several teams have been fanned out inside the area, where searches are continuing on as we speak. Meanwhile, in terms of national politics, the all-party meeting ahead of the Parliament's winter session beginning from the 4th of December, well, it was commenced. All the parties got together inside the parliamentary premises. Leaders from the opposition parties were seen arriving for the meeting as well. Congress Member of Parliament Jairam Ramesh was also seen at the Parliament Library. You can see pictures of Prahlad Joshi, the Defence Minister over there, the Union Law Minister, of course, several top ministers from the BJP and the opposition, all making their way for the all-party parliamentary meet at the Parliament Library building, which is the venue for the meeting. Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi, Arjun Ram Meghwal. This is going to be the first Parliament session after the polling results of the 5 states are declared. And the winter session of the Parliament is scheduled to begin from the 4th of December, and it will continue till the 22nd of the month.
4 तारीख से विंटर सेशन शुरू हो रहा है, 22 तारीख को समापन हो रहा है। 19 डेज स्प्रेड ओवर में 15 सिटिंग्स है और आज परसों से जो शुरू होने वाला है सत्र में ध्यान में रखते हुए ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग हमारे वरिष्ठ नेता और लोकसभा में हमारे उपनेता रक्षा मंत्री श्री राजनाथ सिंह जी के अध्यक्षता में हमने बुलाया था। तो मीटिंग में 23 पार्टी का 30 लोग हाजिर हुए थे। 23 parties, 30 leaders had attended कई सजेशन आए हैं शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन के लिए, कॉलिंग अटेंशन के लिए और 0 ओवर के लिए, ऐसे कुछ उनका डिमांड है। 0 ओवर तो हम चलाते ही आए हैं, दोनों सदनों में 0 ओवर तो हम ऑलमोस्ट 99% रेगुलरली हमने चलाते आए हैं। शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन का भी चर्चा चला है, लेकिन हमने इतना ही कहा है शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन जब चर्चा आप चाहते हो, आप स्ट्रक्चर डिबेट के लिए एक माहौल बनाए रखना भी आपका जिम्मेदारी है। ऐसे हम भी निवेदन किए, हम चर्चा के लिए तैयार है, लेकिन आपको नियम और प्रोसीजर है, प्रोसीजर पालन करते हुए आपको चर्चा करना चाहिए। हम भारत सरकार तैयार है, ये भी हमने आश्वस्त उन लोगों को किया है।
And moving on, the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee will be tabling its report in the Parliament in the MAAMRA cash for query case on the 4th of December, which is going to be the first day of the winter session of the Parliament. Now, the report adopted by the committee earlier this month proposes the expulsion of the TMC MP MAAMRA from the lower house of the Parliament. The 6 members of the ethics panel supported the report on the charge against TMC MP MAAMRA, while 4 members had opposed it. Now, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla had ordered the ethics panel inquiry against MAAMRA based on a complaint from BJP MP Nishikant Dubey. Take a look at that. Point number 5. Shri Vinod Kumar Sonkar, it says, to lay on the table the first report, Hindi and English versions both, of the Committee on Ethics. Now, Dubey had accused the TMC leader of taking a bribe from businessman Darshan Hiranandani for asking questions in Parliament. Opposition members have termed the report a quote-unquote fixed match and said that the complaint filed by Nishikant Dubey was not supported by even a single shred of evidence. Leader of the Congress party in the Parliament, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, has written a letter to the Lok Sabha Speaker on the issue of proceedings of the Ethics Committee. He asked for a review and recasting of the rules and processes that relate to the functioning of the committee. Now, MAAMRA can be expelled only if the House votes in favour of the panel's recommendation. The winter session of the Parliament begins on Monday and is scheduled to continue till the 22nd of December. Of course, the fate of MAAMRA hanging in the balance. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Top Stories. Lots more continues right on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. I'm music composer Ricky Cage.